Hi everyone! Today we'll be talking about one of my favorite bands, as you may be able to tell by the shirt. We're talking Radiohead. Now I've had the pleasure of listening to their discography all week to come up with the cream of the crop. I'm calling this, undeniably, the top 10 best Radiohead songs. And just to stir things up a little bit, I'll have my pick for an overrated song at the end. But in the meantime, let's get to the top 10. Number 10, we have Little by Little from The King of Limbs. After being the valedictorians of the rock scene for over a decade, The King of Limbs was the first Radiohead album greeted with a polite shrug. Pegged as a band that always had to explore new territory and reinvent themselves on every long player, simply releasing a very good Radiohead collection was somehow seen as a letdown. The idea to create The King of Limbs was to challenge the band's previous way of writing and recording. Longtime producer and collaborator Nigel Godrich suggested a 2-week experiment based off using turntables and vinyl emulation instead of standard instruments. Nigel would say those 2 weeks would turn into 6 months, as they went down the rabbit hole of looping and sampling live sequences. York finally would write lyrics over those sequences. He would compare it to editing a film. Little by Little is twisted, alternate reality blues. There are washes, shimmers, and whines of guitar that fade in and out, over chopped and punctuated sequencing that speeds up and slows down, mimicking Tom York's searching falsetto. The album version is slightly more reserved, but on The King of Limbs, live from the basement, they really let the song breathe. Despite its lackluster reception, The King of Limbs is another fantastic winner from the group. At number 9, we have the National Anthem from Kid A. Radiohead formed in their primary school in Oxfordshire, England. Originally, it was Tom York singing and playing guitar, Ed O'Brien also on guitar, Colin Greenwood on bass, and Philip Selway on drums. Later, Colin's younger brother Johnny would join, first on harmonica and keyboard, before eventually becoming lead guitarist. The band took the name On a Friday, referring to the day that they would normally practice at school. Their music teacher would turn them on to avant-garde music, jazz, and classical, opening the guitar punks' minds. The heavy, simple bass riff was written by them around then for the national anthem. But it would be many years before the band regrouped post-university, changed their name to Radiohead based off a Talking Heads song, and ultimately got around to revisiting the pivotal riff. They developed it during OK Computer, but decided to hold it for future release. The experiments of Kid A lent themselves to exploring the song, turning it into heavy metal free jazz. York and Johnny Greenwood instructed the brass band to sound like a traffic jam, and the skronky horns swirl around the mix, anchored by the heavy bass and the hip-hop drum and bass. It's intense, a dense, heady brew, experimental hard rock with a real groove. With Kid A and the national anthem, Radiohead wasn't only creating visionary, unique music, they were creating whole new worlds. Number 8, we have Lucky from OK Computer. Lucky was recorded almost 2 years before OK Computer was released. Tom York called it the first mark on the wall, and it was the first step into the arty, space rock realm that the band would soon explore. Producer extraordinaire Brian Eno asked the group to contribute a song to a charity album. The song would be recorded and released in the same week. Lucky was developed based off high-pitched strumming by Ed O'Brien, playing above the guitar nut, and slowly fleshed out during the Benz tour. It was recorded in 1 day, and Nigel Godrich, who had previously assisted in engineering and producing the Benz, was enlisted to produce alongside the band. This partnership still continues today. He is often referred to as the 6th member of Radiohead, in a nod to producer George Martin being the 5th Beatle. Lucky is soaring alternative psychedelia, with a cerebrous 3-guitar attack from York, O'Brien, and Greenwood. The guitar aims for the heavens as the chorus starts, "Pull me out of the air crash." as if the riff's momentum will propel you out of the rubble. Godrich said recording it in one day was inspiring and left them feeling slightly euphoric. It could be felt in the music. It's transcendent and an important, transformative step for the band. At number 7, we have Pyramid Song from Amnesiac. Radiohead opted to not release any singles from Kid A. York said it was to avoid the stress of publicity, but when they released the second album from those fruitful sessions, Amnesiac, they caved to the thirsty press. Pyramid Song was their first single since No Surprises 8 years prior. The sumptuous song sounds worlds apart from guitar rock. Its impressionistic piano sways with the rhythm. York said the song was inspired by a Charles Mingus composition called Freedom. Originally, it even included hand claps like the inspiration, but the group felt that they detracted and removed them. Greenwood told the string orchestra to swing like jazz musicians, and the arrangement is dreamlike, swirling around the stereo spectrum. The rhythm is an unusual shuffle. It dances with the fragile melody, as if on the precipice of a black hole. York's lyrics were inspired by an exhibit he saw on the Egyptian underworld, and the song is almost spiritual, channeling fallen civilizations to create an exultant, modern hymn. Pyramid Song is an artistic ode to the afterlife. It's like walking toward the light with an open heart. At number 6, we have There There from Hail to the Thief. The Kid A sessions lasted over a year. Drummer Philip Selway would refer to it as manufacturing music in the studio. For their follow-up, they wanted something more live, immediate, and spontaneous. Most of Hail to the Thief would be recorded in 2 weeks, with Nigel Godrich in Los Angeles, with the war on terror fresh on the news. Rather than get too bogged down looking at computer screens, they recorded mainly live tracks with minimal overdubs. There There was recorded during those LA sessions, but the band didn't feel satisfied with the take. Tom York worried they might cut the song, until they tried it again in a session in their native Oxfordshire, and they nailed the angsty krautrock drive that they were aiming for. There There is punctuated by tribal tom-toms, played by guitarist Greenwood and O'Brien, along with drummer Philip Selway. It deliberately builds, layering walls of chiming, reverb-soaked guitar, leading to crescendo nearly 4 minutes into the song, that turns into a garage rock freakout, the climax to its steady dynamics. It's a release from the simmering skeletal tension. There There is Radiohead aiming for primordial music. It's the band at their most raw and instinctive. At number 5, we have All I Need from In Rainbows. Radiohead was an early adopter of the internet, and it helped grow their rabid cult-like fanbase to a full-fledged community. Both Kid A and Hail to the Thief were widely shared on peer-to-peer file sharing services like Napster. It hardly discouraged sales. If anything, it served as grassroots promotion. So, after Radiohead's contract with EMI was up, it was a natural evolution to envision releasing the next album directly to fans online. They self-released In Rainbows from their website as a pay-what-you-want model. Broke fans didn't have to pay a cent. It was a monumental success. The album was downloaded 1.2 million times on its release date. While they would release a physical version, it sparked intense debates on the value of music and alternate distribution. In Rainbows is a stellar album, perhaps their most natural, halfway between conventional and experimental, with a more personal tone to the lyrics. All I Need sees Tom York desperately devoted to his beloved. It slowly burns with deep synth bass on the low end and lovely chiming glockenspiel ringing out over sensual strings. The cathartic outro swells with York singing, it's alright, giving some levity from the intensity. It's a brilliant, aching love song and one of the most direct Radiohead songs. At number 4, we have How to Disappear Completely from Kid A. In 2000, upon release, Kid A was an incredibly divisive album. After choosing not to release singles, critics would have the first say, and they were all over the place. Some were hyperbolic with praise for its inventive textures and unique palettes, and others called it overindulgent and tuneless, the band trying to sound important and intellectual. During sessions, York said he had writer's block while writing tunes on guitars, so he wanted to abandon guitar rock altogether. The band would nearly break up during the recordings. Untethered from their previous conventional instruments, they at first felt adrift, before eventually embracing, learning, and incorporating new electronic instrumentation. Johnny Greenwood fell in love with an early 20th century electronic instrument, the Ond Martineau. By using a ring and keyboard, it creates a ghostly waver, similar to a theremin. On How to Disappear Completely, he wrote the string arrangement on it. The song refrain, "I'm not here, this isn't happening," came from a conversation between York and REM singer and frontman Michael Stipe. When York was suffering from the stress of live touring, Stipe offered that refrain as a mantra to repeat in order to calm down. It's a fragile ballad. York's delicate falsetto is a conflicted, emotional man wanting to become a ghost. Greenwood's string arrangements are gorgeous and majestic, taking the lonely guitar strumming and walking straight into the unknown. Time magazine called Kid A the opposite of easy listening, but How to Disappear Completely is a pleasure of an auditory experience. At number 3, we have Paranoid Android from OK Computer. Creep was an unlikely worldwide hit, and The Bends was very popular in the UK. OK Computer, though, was the statement, announcing Radiohead as an it band. Self-produced by the group, along with Nigel Godrich, it's an ambitious album with alien atmospherics at arena size. While The Bends was a soul-searching, introspective, alternative pop collection, OK Computer was a dense, abstract saga, with an expanded palette of instruments and studio trickery, creating a new world. Radiohead disliked being called progressive rock. To punk rockers, Pink Floyd was seen as bloated and pretentious, but their music really was progressive. Paranoid Android was the unconventional first single, clocking in over 6 minutes. It's often referred to in the same vein as Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody for its untraditional style. It was originally over 14 minutes long, stretching it as far as they could to make the other band members laugh. They eventually edited it down to the frantic, operatic guitar opus, with 3 distinct songs rolled into one stunning sonata. It starts with a jangly flamenco shake until a creeping spy-themed guitar riff intercepts the momentum, kicking on the distortion pedal into a full freakout. You don't remember! You don't remember! The guitar solo swings in like a violent wrecking ball, before letting the ashes fall with York's angelic falsetto and heavenly synth pads. Rain down, come on, rain down on me. It's a schizophrenic hot wire epic, audacious to release as a 6-minute single, but truly the perfect representation of OK Computer. At number 2, we have Fake Plastic Trees from The Bends. The difference in quality of songwriting between Pablo Honey and The Bends is staggering. Songs were pouring out of Tom York, and thanks to their lengthy tour, the band was tighter than ever. They would need to be. Their record company gave them 9 weeks to record the album that would become The Bends. Radiohead hired producer John Leckie, who they would credit for demystifying the studio for them. His open-minded, relaxed approach would inform the sessions and inspire their future self-productions. There are many fantastic songs on The Bends. It's undoubtedly some fans' favorite album. Its songs are the band at their most immediate and accessible. Fake Plastic Trees is the standout. The group had struggled recording it initially. Guitarist Ed O'Brien recalled an early pompous and bombastic version that sounded like Guns N' Roses' November Rain. Frustrated, York had a row with the group afterwards. Leckie told the group to go home and recorded Tom with only vocals and guitar, finally nailing the feeling and bass of the track. Fake Plastic Trees is a melodramatic tearjerker. Tom was reportedly inspired by Jeff Buckley when writing it, influencing his breaking falsetto. York sounds dejected, but the bright guitar chords and steady beat give him momentum. The refrain wears him out, with tender, haunting keyboards before the strum continues on. The climax compares consumerism to love. She looks like the real thing. She tastes like the real thing. My fake plastic love. Over a ringing, passionate guitar sustain and a swelling string symphony that explodes like fireworks. Fake Plastic Trees is a dynamic, powerful ballad and one of their very best. At number 1, we have No Surprises from OK Computer. The classic version on the album was the first take of the song. Radiohead would record several other versions of No Surprises, but they felt none of them improved on their initial take. In order to properly play to the tempo they desired, the group played it faster, and then slowed the tapes in playback, where Tom York overdubbed his vocals. This gives his voice an otherworldly element, slightly detached from the music box melody. The band was aiming for a Pet Sounds vibe, with childlike guitar, a dark lullaby. The group also were striving for a Marvin Gaye or What a Wonderful World atmosphere. No Surprises does have a surprising amount of soul. Its sad sack lead sings a modern spiritual, yearning to escape societal overload and live a tranquil life. The glockenspiel that follows shiny, clean guitars is lovely, and York's voice masterfully moves from resignation to guarded optimism, his voice clearer than usual. His words cry out, "No alarms and no surprises, please." His words are so heavy. He seems like he is at the end of his rope, but the music's powerful elation feels as though it grants him the strength and grace to carry on. No Surprises is an impassioned journey full of fragile, emotional peaks and valleys. Its melody is gorgeous, and it is a triumphant anthem dedicated to the endurance of the human spirit. It's Radiohead's very best and a true masterpiece. And now, I'll share 2 more songs that almost made the list. The first is High and Dry from the Bends. The album isn't represented well in the top 10, but it's really the band's greatest pop record, full of memorable melodic rockers. High and Dry was an old tune written by Tom, and originally played in his previous band, Headless Chickens, in the late 80s. York would later say he was pressured by the label to release it, and called it a very bad song. I think his take has more to do with the countless imitators, from Coldplay to Travis, it seemed to spawn. On its own, it's an earnest, wistful ballad with U2 Arena sing-along ambitions. It's Radiohead at their most conventional, and would be incredibly influential to the post-Britpop movement. They would become art rock titans, but still could pen a catchy tune. The other pick is True Love Waits. It was an unreleased fan favorite, included as a live acoustic version on I Might Be Wrong, and finally released as a studio version 15 years after on A Moon-Shaped Pool. The band worked on the song for over 2 decades, and different permutations could be heard on bootlegs. It's one of York's most direct, heartfelt love songs. On the acoustic version, the pleading, don't leave, is tenuous, but hopeful. On the ambient studio cut, it's more of an unsure farewell. It's the band at their most emotionally honest and engaging. It deserves to be mentioned among their very best. Finally, let's talk about my pick for the most overrated Radiohead song, and that is their debut smash, Creep, from Pablo Honey. It's not a bad song. The blast of dead noise that tease the chorus are iconic and incredible, cocking the gun for a fully distorted chorus. It easily has their most views on YouTube and is the most commonly played on US radio, but I can't imagine most dedicated fans would have it crack their top 20. Its slow jam grunge makes it the most unlikely karaoke favorite. The chorus is so big and simple, any common drunk could give it a go. Eventually, the band themselves grew tired of their massive hit and likened it to playing a cover. It was a song Tom had written during college and only recorded it due to the insistence of their American record producers. Imagine the group's dismay that a near miss that borrows liberally from the Hollies' soft rock anthem, The Air That I Breathe, would become the group's claim to fame, even after all this time. It's like wishing on a monkey's paw. For all of Radiohead's innovation and influence on music and the music industry, they will always be known for a crunchy, melodramatic, obsessive love song. Don't get me wrong, its warped sock hop has its charms, but it's not close to their best. It can't help but be overrated. As you're still watching, I wanted to feature a deep cut as well. For that, I'm shining a light on the Daily Mail. It was written during the In Rainbows sessions, but only recorded for the King of Limbs Live from the Basement. The song is a vicious takedown of the British tabloid. It starts as a serene piano ballad before dissonant chords ring in some righteous fury. The tempo picks up with a booming brass arrangement and York's howls. It would have been a highlight on the King of Limbs. Instead, it's an underrated treasure for those willing to dig into their excellent plethora of B-sides. It's killer. Check it out. So there you have it. That was undeniably the top 10 best Radiohead songs. So, how wrong was I? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your top 3? Do you think Creep is their best song? Let me know. And if there's any artist you'd like to see me rank, let me know in the comments below. Hope you stick around, and thank you for watching. One of my favorite dance, but
My favorite dance.
of listening through the discog, nope, and read the bill, no, little by little, mimicking. At number 10, oh, I see it right there. I say the wrong one, wrong number. Okay, yeah. This put an art in her shoe, and slowly fleshed out, yeah, for 8 years prior. I don't know what that word was.
Prior.
But the group felt worried that they might. York said he had some were hyper. Yeah, with a jangly flamenco shank. Dang. Pompous and bombastic.
Staring straight at it, and it's very adorable.
Well, this one's for you.